Hello, everyone. Today we are going to discuss one of the most fundamental and fascinating topics in orthopedic, that is fracture healing. Every orthopedic surgeon fixes fracture almost every day. However, I want you to understand something very important. Surgeons do not actually heal fractures, it's biology that heals the fracture. What we do as a surgeon is to provide the ideal biological and mechanical environment that allows nature to repair the bone. Think about a patient with a tibial shaft fracture. We may apply a cast, we may insert an intramedullary nail, we may perform compression plating, we may even apply an external fixator. These techniques look completely different, yet they all have exactly the same objective: to create the optimum environment for fracture healing. Throughout this lecture, you will notice that successful fracture healing depends on two major principles. The first one is biology, the second one is biomechanics. If either one fails, fracture healing may fail. Therefore, every orthopedic surgeon must understand not only how bones heal but also why they sometimes do not heal. By the end of today's lecture, you should be able to explain the complete sequence of fracture healing from the moment the bone breaks until it's completely remodels years later. Let me ask you a question. When does fracture healing actually begin? Is it after surgery? Is it after callus formation? Or does it begin immediately after the fracture occurs? Fracture healing begins within minutes of injury. In today's lecture, we will learn about the biological stages of fracture healing and what are the cells involved in the fracture healing, how the callus formation occur, and how the bone remodels after the healing of a bone, and what are the factors that affect the bone healing, and some important clinical pearls, of course. The first concept everyone should know is that bone heals in two different ways. The first one is primary bone healing. The primary bone healing occurs after an absolute anatomical reduction with absolute stability, usually after compression plating. There is virtually no motion, so no visible callus formation occur. Instead, osteoclasts create cutting cones while osteoblasts may lay down new osteons directly across the fracture. Think of this as a microscopic remodeling. The second type is secondary bone healing, which is much more common. It occurs with the cast, intramedullary nails, and external fixator. A small amount of micromotion stimulates the formation of callus. Remember this simple rule: absolute stability gives direct bone healing, relative stability gives callus formation. Fracture healing process through four overlapping stages. That is, first stage one is inflammation, second one is soft callus formations turn into a hard callus formation, and the final stage is bone remodeling. These stages overlap rather than occurring as a complete separate events. Each stage prepares the foundation for the next one. Immediately after a fracture, a hematoma is formed at the fracture site. This hematoma is not harmful at all. In fact, it is essential for healing. Because it is a source of growth factors, it contains inflammatory cells, platelets, cytokines, and numerous growth factors. These signals recruit mesenchymal stem cells and osteoprogenitor cells. Fibroblasts begin producing granulation tissue. Osteoblasts start preparing for bone formation. One important surgical principle follows from this biology is that whenever possible, preserve the fracture hematoma. Excessive soft tissue stripping during surgery can delay healing. Now we enter the repair phase. Initially, a soft callus bridges the fracture. At this stage, the fracture is becoming stable but yet cannot tolerate full loading. Over the next few weeks, cartilage within the callus undergoes inchondral ossification. This converts the soft callus into a hard woven bone callus. Later, the medullary canal is restored as healing progresses. Remember an important clinical point: the amount of callus is inversely proportional to stability. That is, more movement produces more callus, less movement produces less callus. These slides introduce parent strain theory, one of the highest yield concepts in orthopedic. Cells decide what tissue to produce based on two factors: interfragmentary mechanical strain, and the second one is oxygen tension. High strain across the fracture results in fibrous tissue formation. Intermediate strain with low oxygen produces cartilage, whereas low strain with good oxygen supply produces bone. In simple words, the mechanical environment determines the tissue that forms. This explains why unstable fractures often develop abundant cartilage before bone. Once the fracture has united, healing is still not complete. Remodeling may continue for several years. During this phase, woven bone is replaced by strong lamellar bone. Osteoclasts remove unnecessary callus, whereas osteoblasts lay down organized lamellar bone. Eventually, the medullary canal is restored and the cortex regains its normal shape. This process follows Wolff's law, and it states that bone continuously adapts according to the mechanical stresses placed upon it. Bone healing is controlled not only by cells but also by growth factor. Among the most important are bone morphogenic proteins, or also known as BMPs. BMPs stimulate osteoblast differentiation through intracellular signaling molecules known as SMADs proteins. Some clinically important examples include BMP2, which is used in selected open tibial fracture, and BMP7 used in some tibial non-union. Remember, the BMP signaling occurs through SMAD proteins. Several external factors influence fracture healing. COX2 enzyme activity is important for in control ossification of the bone. Because NSAIDs inhibits this enzyme, it results in increased time to healing. There is more chances of non-union, and it also decreases the strength of a callus. Quinolones antibiotics are toxic to chondrocytes, and it inhibits the fracture healing. There is a positive effect of low intensity pulse ultrasound, because these low intensity pulse ultrasound waves accelerate healing and increase the mechanical strength of a callus. There is a detrimental effects of radiation, because high doses of radiation decreases the cellularity and it affects the Haversian system of the bone. The patient with the protein malnutrition results in the decreased callus formation, and there is a decreased stiffness or strength of callus, and it promotes more fibrous tissue. Remember, essential amino acid supplementations improve the callus bone mineral density. There is an important concept in orthopedic is a piezoelectric effect. What is piezoelectric effect? Bone is electrically active. When mechanical stress is applied across the bone, the compression sides create a negative electrical charge. This attracts osteoblasts and promotes bone formation. The tension side becomes relatively positive. This attracts osteoclasts, leading to bone resorption. This phenomena is called piezoelectric effect, and it helps explain how bone remodels according to mechanical loading. And remember, this piezoelectric effect is because of the collagen in the bone. As you know, that bone has type 1 collagen, and the collagen molecules are electronegatively charged. So, whenever a force is applied across the bone attains this difference of the charges across the compression side as well as across the tension side. Electrical stimulation has also been used to enhance fracture healing. Three common methods are direct current, alternating current, and pulsed electromagnetic field. Among these, pulsed electromagnetic field stimulates calcification of fibrocartilage, making it useful in selected delayed unions and non-unions. Here is a summary of factors that affect the fracture healing. Head injury and nicotine has also affect the fracture healing of a bone. Head injury can increase the osteogenic response to fracture, whereas nicotine impairs fracture healing. So the conclusion of today's presentation is that Primary healing requires absolute stability and produces no callus. Secondary healing occurs under relatively stable and abundant callus formation. Parent strain theory links strain with the tissue differentiation. BMP signals through SMAT proteins. Remodeling follows the Wolff law. Smoking, NSAIDs, and malnutrition delay healing. Mechanical stability and preservation of blood supply are two important factors that surgeons can control. Fracture healing is the result of delicate interaction between the biology and mechanics. Successful treatments depend on preserving blood supply, providing the appropriate mechanical environment, and avoiding factors that impair healing. As a future clinicians, always remember this simple rule. Biology heals the fracture while the surgeon creates the environment for biology to succeed. Thank you very much for your attention.